Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. So today's a bit different. I know usually I have Fridays, which I will have another show this Friday as well. But I wanted to. It was an actual idea by one of the people that had left a comment initially. Well, actually, let me show you where it's at. Initially, this person had said, I believe it was here, the comment section. Okay, let me make this a bit bigger for you guys. All right. I love these colorful usernames. I can't never pronounce them. So it's Ugado. Oh, anyway. Well, the question was, what about doing a Q&A and interview some of your viewers on Discord? Now, of course, I've heard of Discord. I've always used Telegram, but I eventually left it up as an option. I had replied here saying working on it. This was about 6 days ago. And the tests that I've done worked out great. And so check out, if you are part of Telegram, find UFO Hub group, and the voice chat should be already active and going there. So yeah, I'll later on. I have some announcements to take, but to do. But go ahead and join the group. Unmute yourself and raise your hand so that way it'll tell me whether or not you want to partake. I haven't checked yet if there was anyone else in the group, but if not, we'll find something else to talk about. But it's something that depends on how popular it gets. There were about. Let me make this smaller again. There were about 77%. So out of 70 votes, 77% were for Telegram and 23 for Discord. So I just went ahead and set it up for Telegram because I was already very comfortable with it, kind of already knew how it functioned. So I figured why not just stick to that, since even the majority of people interested to want to be on and share their story were using Telegram anyway. So that's that regarding Telegram itself. The other part that I wanted to cover is this Friday, I'm going to have Mike Dooley on. He's the gentleman you see here on the screen, and I've interviewed him a while back. It was on right before he came out with his book, Thoughts Become Things, or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering it now. I can't remember the detail. But I'm going to have him on at 7 p.m. Central Time on Friday, and we'll be discussing different topics. And of course, he will then, if you submit your question in the chat with the three stars, if you have a question for him, I'll ask him and hopefully get your answer. So anyway, Mike Dooley is going to be the guest at 7 p.m. this Friday and 7 p.m. Central Time. If you paid attention last time, I've kind of started. It's not an endorsement of different websites, but people that have reached out and wanted kind of their website to be mentioned, or wanted to do some kind of partnership, which I don't do, but at least I can just say, hey, there's this site, check it out. I'm not endorsing them. If they seem interesting, it's simply me just saying, hey, check this out if you're interested. If not, that's up to you. But yeah, one of them in particular was this website. It's called What's Up with UFOs, and they do these different videos where they're short and they cover certain subjects about UFOs, whether it would be the research or different kind of stuff. So anyway, check it out. I promised them I was going to mention them, so if you find something useful there, knock yourself out. If not, I'm sure you'll find it somewhere else. The other part is would be more for the speaking German speaking audience. One of the websites that had reached out to me, and this just tells you how much I slack sometimes, almost a year ago, and is basically called Aufgewacht, which basically I guess translated would mean awakened. And so he wanted to do an interview with me in German, and I'm not hesitant to talk about the subject, but it's been pretty good, pretty much 20 years since I've spoken a lengthy period of time with somebody in German. Usually it's been a sentence or two, and I still understand it very well. I'm sure if I just start speaking again, I can get used to it, but it's just been too long, and I was trying to tell him I'm not sure if I would know the German equivalent of some of these terms that I would have to use to convey whatever we're going to be talking about when it comes to UFOs and aliens and that subject in general. But for those of you that do speak German and live in Germany and are looking for maybe more resources, he has a different style of presenting the different interviews that he does. It's, I believe, mainly phone interviews that then he superimposes some pictures regarding whatever it is that they're talking about. And so that's something that maybe could be a resource for those of you who live in Germany and would like to know about another German channel. The other one is Let me see here. The other one is this, also a German website. It's akasha-interview.de. And from my understanding, it's basically these interviews that are being done accessing the Akashic record and all kinds of questions, basically all the subjects that most of us that are into this are aware of, but it's basically in German. And so I haven't extensively checked it out myself, but again, it seemed interesting. If you are interested in it, please check it out. So anyway, that's regarding the coverage that I wanted to do with all of you guys. Let me. There's Mike Dooley again. Yeah, I don't know. He's. I have it on the list. If you go on the UFO Hub YouTube channel and go to the actual videos, you might have to scroll down a bit because it might have been maybe 4 or 5 years since we've done this interview. So I was glad he's able to come on and talk to me again. Just bear with me. I want to check on something here. Okay. Yeah, and again, if some of you would like, would like to talk to me, just don't hesitate to just go to Telegram and basically join the voice chat and raise your hand, and I'll be able to see you, and we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm going to be periodically checking. I'll be periodically checking on the Okay, I'm glad chat is alive and well. Welcome everyone there. Trying to see if there's any questions. Greetings from San Francisco. Welcome. Hazel, how are you? Welcome. Space Gypsy, welcome. And there's, I can't pronounce his name, Statugov from Australia. So welcome as well. I'm sorry, I can't, I'm butchering the hell out of it. GoPro Vid from the Netherlands, also welcome. This must be pretty late for you guys there now. So I appreciate you staying on because I know Hazel had said something early in the comments about it being 1 a.m. So basically 7 p.m. Central Time here is 1 a.m. Where she said, and I believe she mentioned something about being in Spain. So yeah, if you do have to God, sorry, I know. Maybe just give me something simple like Bob from Australia. That'll be a lot easier. Or an Australian equivalent of Bob. But anyway, so don't hesitate to go to Telegram right now. The chat is going. Excuse me, the voice chat is going, and it's also simultaneously streaming on there as well. So if you want to talk to me and share your story, just don't hesitate to join there, and we'll chat. Sorry, I'm just looking over some of the different comment sections. All right, well, before I go over anything else here, oh, I don't know if I've given the due credit. So again, to whoever that person was that suggested to create these open lines, this Ugo Gatto, Thank you again. I'm usually very busy to try to follow up on every idea that somebody would have for me, but it seemed pretty reasonable. It's something that it didn't from technological and technical point of view for me didn't seem that difficult to do. It would just require a setup and a test. And so it would, to all of you out there, it would kind of appear like this. So you should be able to see it. Right now, it's just obviously me speaking, so there's nobody there. But anyway, we'll get back to this later. If there is somebody who would like to come on, I'm going to switch to this real quick. And go back to this story. Some of you might have already seen this or heard about this. And again, as I mentioned a long time ago, I don't usually cover news, but this was something that was signed or reported actually December 29th, 2020. And it's from the New York Post. COVID-19 bill started a 180-day countdown for UFO disclosures. I don't know, and I have not looked into the detail of what was exactly in it, because according to these two paragraphs, it said at that time, so this is old news, President Trump's signature Sunday on the 2.3 trillion COVID-19 relief and government funding bill started a 180-day countdown for the Pentagon and spy agencies to say what they know about UFOs. The provision received very little attention, in part because it wasn't included in the text of the 5,593-page legislation, but as a committee comment attached to the annual Intelligence Authorization Act, which was rolled out into the massive bill. So I don't know what they're actually going to reveal, because it would be very, very much against government character for them to just kind of be open and honest about things. Of course, over the years, they've been leaking things and always conjecturing about what this could be and, how amazing it is how these different ships move, what they do. But I'm not sure that that's going to, I think they just give us just a tiny bit to just give a little bit of acknowledgement, just a tiny bit to get the hardcore researchers going and saying, oh, well, we're on the verge of something new. And we actually very well might be. And I hope so, but I just don't know that they might just have another, very whitewashed meeting about, well, we don't know what they are and the characteristics and the way they move, we're not sure where they're from, but they don't oppose a national security threat, and they would kind of lock the book on that. It would be very awesome, and I encouraged it for the latter to happen, which is to kind of them just come out and be a lot more open about it. But then again, I don't know if these governments are so very much against each other, and always have been. So maybe one government doesn't want to reveal more than the other one knows. But then again, the United States, out of all these different governments, has always been the last one, still is the last one to kind of officially, as far as I know, I could be wrong, to release what it is exactly that they know. And just to acknowledge about the Tic Tac and the different ships and the videos of those, it's not exactly revealing everything they know. But not this Friday, obviously. Mike Dooley will be on, but the Friday after that, I'm going to be talking to Red Pill Junkie is his name. Yes, I do know his first name. I have to check with him first if he wants me to reveal it. Obviously, he'll be on video, but he's from Mexico. And so I'll be talking to him about UFOs and how it is that, Mexican government and the researchers there view the phenomena as opposed to American researchers. And maybe in the future, I might find other people from different countries that are kind of in a similar field, and I'm hoping then to be able to talk to them about it as well. But yeah, so this, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be coming about of this, to be honest. Okay. Let me see here. I have sometimes it's challenging and difficult having to go through and figure out where I'm at and what windows I have open and what needs to be checked on. All right, let's go to the chat. So this first question I can see is from Hazel. It says, have you heard anything about the God code in our DNA? This proves we was designed. Well, I mean, I've heard about this before, and there's always more of the scientific approach about what is DNA exactly, and then there's of course this what they call the junk DNA, and then trying to figure all that out. But like I said, just ages ago now, I've kind of shifted away from that. But yes, I've heard of that. What you're referring to. Mm. Bradley Cortez, welcome. Says 2 a.m. here. Wow. Thank you all for being up this late. I didn't realize that there was going to be um, that there's going to be such a I guess enthusiastic people up this late. But I remember being a night owl, but a long time ago. Now, usually, if unless I absolutely have to, um, you know, I try to go to bed at a reasonable time. Mm. Bradley, regarding the link, sure. I mean, if it's not a spam or it's something that you actually would like to convey to someone else in chat, please do. Um, if it comes up and it denies it, I'll allow it. Yeah, because I had actually turned off the slow mode on the chat because the slow mode helps me a lot, but I didn't exactly anticipate that I was going to have to um, be focusing on the chat too much. And again, if you would like to talk to me, just open up your Telegram, go over to ufohub group. You should be able to find it. And I believe it's also in the description box below the specific link to the group. And I have a voice chat running now, and you'll be able to talk to me directly over voice. And everyone else on YouTube should be able to hear as well. Because I had earlier today when I was posting, I had obviously I had 0 because nobody else was part of the group, and there's about 15 part of the group now, and so I was hoping maybe somebody would log in because earlier when I made a video, I said there could be nobody, one person, or several. I just don't know, but I figured maybe if it caught people off guard that I was going to be doing this on Wednesday, because either I would post a video of an interview on Wednesday or I'll do a live show like open lines, and it possibly both. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. It just depends on what sentiment is, I guess, by the overall group. So I have just wanted to also indicate that on the UFO Hub channel itself, I've been trying to use this community tab a lot more and more often. Obviously, I've had today's video that's coming out, previous videos, some polls. Conference is coming up also, which is the Ozark Mountain UFO Conference. It's going to start this Saturday and Sunday, and it's the welcome is going to be around 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday, and go pretty late in the day. And yeah, so obviously it's going to be virtual, so you can watch it from your home. And I hope you do join. I've done a lot of basically we did like a practice session with each one of the speakers. I did several. And today I had Whitley Strieber. We were just kind of going over, his connection and based on the Hopin platform, how it allows to share the screen and any videos or pictures or presentation, anything like that. So it's been great that that I kind of stumbled across that platform to be able to do that, because it would suck otherwise. There would have been another year without the Ozark conference. Now, of course, from the boss down, there's always the hopes that it will be live again in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, like it has been since the 80s, and just to kind of continue that tradition. And it seems like that it's going to go that way. But again, I don't know. I mean, anything can happen between now and then. But yeah, I'm using this community tab almost like my Facebook feed, because I noticed there's not that much engagement on Facebook, and I don't know. I can't figure out the algorithms anymore. How often to post, what should be posted, what should not be posted. So, I mean, I copy over whatever I have on the Twitter, UFO Hub Twitter, and UFO Hub Facebook and Instagram, but I just don't know how well it'll come across or how many people will find out. I noticed that under this community tab, there's a lot more people partaking in whatever it is I'm saying, and they're more aware of what's going to come up next. So check that often, and I'm sure it might come up in your feed on YouTube, but I always try to just use that as my main go-to for messages. Okay, let me see here. I'm going back to the chat to see if anything else is going on. Space Gypsy says, Donald, connect on Telegram. I'm Selena on UFO Hub. Oh, okay. Sorry. I guess I thought that was something in reference to me, but I guess you guys are just chatting, which is good. Yeah, let's, I'll take some questions. If I can answer them, I will. Otherwise, like I said, this is totally last minute. It was last night. I was excited. I was like, yes, I got to figure it out. It's working great on Telegram. Let's put that out that has been figured out and see what happens. So this morning was the first time I posted about it. And so I didn't mean to blindside anyone, but that's all right. So maybe I'll have several more days in advance next time to just post to say, okay, another open lines on Telegram, and see what happens. And I'll keep that up and keep it going for a while and see how if it picks up or not. But if nobody logs in to want to chat and share their story, then I can't. There's not much I can do about that. Okay. And for those of you that are new, please remember to, if you have a question directly for me, put 3 stars right before you ask a question, because then that way I know it's something for me, and I'll read it. Otherwise, like I just did earlier, I would just read off a comment thinking it's for me, but not really. There's Bradley asking, Ednan, would you be up to hosting Stephen Greer's new UFO documentary coming out 2 months' time, hosting on your YouTube channel? Um, it's a good question, and just to be straightforward, just thank you for letting me know, but no, just because there are other avenues that I'm sure he can use, and he doesn't necessarily need my channel, but I just want to when I know more personally about each person that I've talked to or interacted with, maybe I might feel comfortable to maybe collaborate with them. But for example, like Mike Dooley a while back has reached out and said, "Hey, I've written this channeling book with this other gal, which then I will." I don't know exactly when, but I'll have her on the show as well to talk about it. And so, you know, I know Mike, I trust him, and so I'll kind of go with that. But I don't I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go that far. I mean, I'll mention channels like I did early in the show, but not to the point to where I would be hosting. Next question is from. So Vicky said, "Hello, Adnan. Have you ever had an experience with ETs?" Yes, I have, and that's a very long story. I've had. If you go to the UFO Hub playlist, there's a playlist called Talks, and you can see all the different talks that I've done up until recently. I also had a live show called "The 5 Stages of Contact: More Details," where I tried to go into a little bit more details about what it is that I experienced and different subjects and answer different questions. So I hope that helps. It's just not something I would like to go into right now. Doo-doo-doo. Sorry if I go silent a little bit. I'm trying to read what's going on in the comments at the same time. I'm sorry, it's probably not that exciting for you to watch, but I appreciate you being here. Paul Crocker says, think Mars is inhabited, perhaps. Um, this might sound like I'm trying to evade a question, but it's not. I don't believe that within this dimension that it is. That it's barren for a reason. That's why we see it the way we see it. But I mean, this can technically apply to anything that exists, but on a different dimension, most likely that we're still possibly can get in touch with the different. I guess with the civilization that was there at that time, which of course depends on whose book you read and follow. Technically, they say that we are the descendants of that Martian race. That once Mars was destroyed, we kind of used all the technology and moved over to obviously Earth now. But anyway, that's again all theories. But yeah, no, not. I think they would that I don't know if NASA is hiding it on purpose, or what, because again, it would just be conspiracy theory. But I think the more probes are being sent to Mars, that we would see that there potentially was another civilization long ago, with the different artifacts still there, because there have been some amazing UFO. I mean, not UFO, amazing artifact pictures to where they just look very, no pun intended, alien. When you look at that picture, you'll see rocks, sand, and then this obviously constructed shape, and there's hundreds of those. There's different websites I used to follow maybe 15 years ago that would be their whole job. They would scour anything that NASA has about Mars, and they will look over the pictures and then point out any anomalies. So it's always fun, but at the end it just leaves you guessing. If anything, it was great just to know more about it. Try to look at it. I mean, no different than reading a science fiction book, even though if the author says this is made up story like Star Trek and all of that. At least it's entertainment, but you can also look at things that have a great potential of being true, and kind of just follow that, to where, well, it is possible for NASA to possibly hide something. It is possible that whatever gets through, is actually another artifact from a civilization long gone. And so don't forget to, um, if you do have Telegram and you would like to share your story and want to talk to me, just go to Telegram, search for UFO Hub, and you'll find a group where there should be a voice chat going on right now. And feel free to join, and we'll chat. Well, yeah. Naturally, Nathan, it says, "Can I ask my question on Telegram?" Sure. I mean, that's why it's there. Even if you don't have a story, I mean, why not? They can just be, because I have it open, for this purpose. We could just You can just ask a question instead of it being having to be read on chat. And that goes for anyone that would like to do that. This one is from Donald. It says, "Anything to add to the I guess 3rd July 1947 Roswell, New Mexico crash, retrievals and EBE corpse autopsy?" Mm, maybe, I don't know. Maybe some of you already know about this, but something that I found out, this was told through Bashar, which was really interesting. That he mentioned what initially caused the crash was the radar that was being tested at that time, because it was they were still developing different, I guess, different radar devices, and I guess mess with their navigations and their ships, and it caused the crash. That's what he was saying, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's widely known or if some of you have read about that, but if anything, just take it in, put it in the back of your head, and see maybe eventually if there's more data about this, then at least you have some kind of reference. Okay, well, we have, I don't mean to put this person on the spot, but we have one person that also wants to talk. That's great. Hi, copper clad lad, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, let's see what the problem here could be. Okay, let me switch off here. Okay, let's try this one more time. Can you hear me now? That's a bummer. Let's see. How about now? Oh, yes, I can hear you now. Oh, which part?
Push to talk on, and I wasn't pressing the button.
Oh, okay.
There's a
All right.
setting
Well,
in Telegram that I
oh, I
had
see.
turned on, and I must have forgot about it.
All right. Let me just give me one quick second. Please bear with me. It's my very first time
Yeah.
testing it. I just want to see if I can get some feedback from the chat. Can you guys hear this? I know there's about a 20-second delay. If you can let me know that you hear him, then we should be good to go, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Well, my name's Nathan.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind sharing, I just um, didn't want to give out any other information that you
No,
might
I
not want to.
understand. This is fine. I'm pretty open myself.
Right.
Uh, m- my question, if you don't mind, I can ask it now. Um, you I don't know if you know this series on Gaia TV. They have a one called Cosmic Disclosure, and on Cosmic Disclosure, there's a guy named Emery Smith. Do you know him?
Emery Smith, yes, I've heard the name, but
Okay.
yeah, go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Well, he has very interesting like recounts of his involving with like live aliens and such. He has apparently accounted on Gaia TV on this like the first season of Cosmic Disclosure that he has seen this technology that uh, possibly has like healing technology out there, and what he claims and what he says is that every time he goes on to like get interviewed or goes on say Cosmic Disclosure and gets interviewed, that he may accidentally slip and like say too much or something, and then
Hmm.
the next thing he knows is that he notices that this technology is now being developed by companies. They're starting this new healing programs and stuff like that. So I was wondering if there's anything about that anywhere else other than Emory talking about if there's healing technology being developed like with this like new incoming age of technology and such.
Are you referring to what's also generally kind of known as like the med beds?
Yeah, kind of
Okay.
like that. I would think that too.
That's it's very interesting because the one part that's really I guess it really sucks about different governments is because of their lack of transparency, and because they don't want to talk about what it is that they know. It's the possibility for something like that to exist out there is
Mm.
obviously great. And if it is, you know it's very psychopathic almost for them not to share it, to just kind of it be hidden, because why would if everyone can benefit from this, eventually the whole world will be um, a better place so to say. And
Right.
it's you know I don't know, because here's the other part. There would have to be a lot of people that then go down this chain that would have to be so deluded and so
Hmm.
twisted to just keep it a secret, all the way down from the smallest engineer to all the way up to the person that's supposed to be in charge of this, to for it to um, to somehow leak out the documents to the mainstream science that can maybe do something with it, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've heard the name vaguely, and I don't know that
Right.
much. But I'm glad you filled me in on what it is that he covers. And I
Yeah,
don't
he is.
have I don't have Gaia TV either.
Yeah, I do. I don't really look at it that much. There's just so much on there. But he opened me up to that and a lot of what he talks about. He now actually hosts that show now, which is very interesting on my part to think that what else is he saying and like what else is he not saying and stuff like that. So
Right.
uh that his main thing would be that his main thing he apparently did autopsies on aliens and such in his recounting, so he has a medical background. in that military medical background and so-called. He recounts it all on Gaia, and so I just thought that was really cool to share and ask.
Right. Let me actually. Well, can you? Is it Emery? Emery, or am I spelling it wrong?
Someone may have put it in the chat. I don't know.
Okay, I'll check real
Um,
quick. Because I
I
was
don't
figuring,
know.
well, I hope you don't mind just hanging out with me for a little bit. There's doesn't seem
Yeah,
to be anyone else, and I certainly appreciate you being on because the whole goal was to pretty much test it out for the first time. So thank you,
cool.
Nathan. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to help, and I don't know. Just a quick recounting of
Sure.
how I found you. I think this was part of my awakening when it came to just learning about all this stuff. So maybe about 5, 6 years ago, I, looked at my Facebook, I looked at my YouTube. I'm like, why do I have all these things I don't like? I don't really care for McDonald's or South Park, so let me start liking the things I do like. And so I really just deleted all the things I didn't like on social media, and then started liking all the things I did. And then I
Right.
started looking at all the new things, like a lot of new age stuff. Myself, I come from a new age background, but not
Hmm.
fully. And now it's a lot of it is also UFOs and a lot of other esoteric stuff. And I think in that, I think I found your channel that way. And it's just always been on my my news feed and my subscriptions. And then I saw your one of your live streams recently, and I had an asked a question on that, and it was really inspiring for me to keep listening, because you asked it, or you answered my question pretty well, and I really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little bit. People always, it's hard for somebody to, unless they have sort of an inspiration like you did. And during my time, I had the same thing to where you just go out and look for whatever it is that, whatever food your soul is looking for,
I agree.
and
I agree.
and so when you do that, you kind of, it resonates with you, and you kind of go along with that. But then when you all of a sudden in a spot like where what I'm doing now is, I don't want people to hang on every word that I'm saying. I would like for them to go about, do their own research. Now, of course, if I can help maybe to talk to another person that knows more than I do about a different subject, then at least I've helped the field that much more. But it is a bit nerve wracking that when
Mm.
you know people would want to know more about you, and why am I doing this and what's going on, especially when it comes to talking about these personal and very sometimes intimate stories. But it's, I guess, sometimes it's required to just connect on that human level to say, hey, I'm human too, and this is what happened, so maybe you can get something out of this, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you're amalgamating all of the different stuff about what you like, and kind of doing your best on producing that.
Right. Well, I mean, initially, because I was collecting all these different documents and I had them in PDF form. This was all about what does the government know, and there's so much stuff that eventually was not leaked, but released and declassified. And when you read it in details, it's very, very clear that they're going after something, that they're not, what they're saying publicly, but what they're doing in the background, it's not the same. They would say, oh, there's nothing there. There's no threat to national security, but they're frantically in the background doing everything they can to find out as much information as possible. But it's funny how they release it in these very obscure different documents, and they're not directly stating things, but enough to where you can tell some money and millions upon millions was spent on this.
Yeah, yeah, I am shocked at how much disinformation campaigning is going on. There's so much money being dumped in this direction just to hide it. I'm
Right.
just absolutely shocked. I like UFO, and a lot of this stuff is isn't really my main subject, but I come on into it at time to time. Like recently, someone shared a UFO, like a moon based documentary for me, and I was just blown away at how much like all these different people were connecting these dots and everything, and it was just amazing.
Right. Well, it's in, what is your initial focus, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, my main focus is just a general I would figure it's a lot of the esoteric, occult sciences, natural law. I really, really am enjoying that. Where it comes to some of the things that got me onto that were UFOs and aliens and things like that. But a lot of it came from like health. A lot of it was from health, and then I turned into like just seeking like different forms of thought, like new age thought, like the empowerment training and like personal development stuff. And then it kind of went into the sciences, and then from there I learned about a guy named Mark Passio,
Mm-hmm.
and Mark Passio really
Mark,
turned me
yeah,
onto that.
yep.
Yeah, Mark. I'm actually really close with him and his work, and keep in touch with him a lot. And he has really opened my eyes to a lot of that stuff, and I really have, put my heart on that line of work of natural
Right.
law. And
It was very interesting. The first time I met Mark, it was actually organized by a late friend of mine called Ray Mummy, and this was
hmm,
taking place in St. Louis. And he said, "This guy Mark is going to come to talk. Can you come record?" And I had no idea what this is for. Didn't understand if he wanted if he wanted me to record for him as a favor as a friend, or what. But
hmm.
I wasn't quite sure what I signed up for. Then when I saw him, I immediately realized that I actually watched some of his other videos where he breaks down the matrix and the meaning in
Yes,
this. Is it symbolism or symbology? I don't know what the
symbolism. They're
symbolism.
synonymous.
Okay, symbolism in that movie, and the 111s on the doors and the
Yeah,
333 and
101 rooms at 101.
right, right. But anyway, so and I thought this was just going to be a, like a, hour or two talk. This went on for hours, and I have
Wow,
it on the UFO Hub channel. And
interesting.
so, anyways, when I was talking to him initially, because I recorded the whole show, and then later on when we met up at my friend Ray's house, I asked him if he wouldn't mind doing another interview, just one on one with me, and he agreed, and I was very happy about that. But he was saying, just I can't go on much longer because I just spoke for 8 hours straight and my voice is giving out. I didn't think about that.
Right.
But
That's cool. I see it here actually. The 6 years ago, the
right,
interview.
right. It's been a while, and it was weird for me too because I didn't initially connect the name when he was saying to come and see if I can record Mark Passio. I said that's fine. Totally slipped my mind that I was watching some of the videos of those breakdowns, and I like those because it has the connection of this oneness that we all generally talk about. It has all these very interesting ways of expressing itself to where you think you're talking about one thing, but in reality, it's connecting everything together. And it's this, I guess you could call it natural law. It's these um, different symbols, these occult things that I guess they were occult because they really couldn't discuss them back then openly.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they would immediately, labeled as witches and devils and demons and all kinds of stuff because a very different point of view from what was going on at that time would have been perceived as a threat. So of course it had to go into hiding. That hence the word occult.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of that connection is really deep, and I he had said something to me. Oh, not to me, on one of his lectures where the truth speaks, and the once the truth spoke, I don't know, he seemed to have just spoke something that really resonated with me to the point where I heard exactly what I needed to hear, and it really, you know, that comes to people in different ways. I know that it may not be for everyone, and I'll give everyone that uh, benefit of the doubt on whether or not they can understand that. And it really is a connection of things. I think I've heard him say this. It's like a tapestry, and you don't have to have all the pieces, but you can kind of get the general picture and the idea.
Right. Well, it's amazing how much information he's able to retain just within a talk. And maybe, of course, when you practice certain things enough, it makes sense that he would be able to. But just even talking to him just later on at the after party and just having discussion that he already talked for 8 hours on so many different levels and subjects, and then expounded on even more afterwards. And that's
Hmm.
quite a library right there.
Yeah, he is one tough cookie as well. Like he is a repository, a wizard, and a tech whiz. All of that.
Right, right. Yeah, I remember he was one particular, always talking about people hiding things. In this particular talk, he was discussing. I believe it was. Forgive me. It's like you said. It's been what 6, 7 years ago, whatever it
Yes,
said on there. He was an IT guy at this place where they were doing research about cancer, and
correct.
he overheard that somebody said something along the lines of we might have a cure here. And then this higher up person just kind of darted straight towards this person that uttered
Yeah,
those words and just said to them, I don't ever want to hear you say these words here again if you want to keep working here. It was sort of to imply that they're not in the business of finding cures.
right. They'll lose their funding.
Right, right. No, that's the sad part when you're in such a lack and living a life from such a point of view of lack that you rather hang on to the job than actually fulfill what it is that you potentially could fulfill, which could, in that case, be a cure for cancer.
Right. The
You know,
lack mindset.
right,
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Very
right.
cool.
Well, it is quite a. It's almost like the word itself. It says it's a like a dis-ease, disease, you know,
Ah,
and you basically if you it's hard to get out of these different mindsets, whether it's being a victim, feeling you're in lack all the time, and all these other things. Whether we just unknowingly kind of bought into it. Let's take out all the spiritual stuff out, right? Let's say you have no idea about any of that. When you see the world and the way it is, it's almost easier and better, you know, when you perceive the world as a younger person to want to be the victim because then you get more help. You want to be somebody who depends on somebody else because then you don't have to stand up for yourself, you know? And it's that right there is such a unfortunate thing to basically not have um, the most people continue that mindset and they don't have anyone to tell them otherwise. Now, of course, I was fortunate to always had, very strong-willed parents, other people in my life that basically victimhood was not an option. You know,
hmm,
you either stand up for yourself or you die. I mean, it was kind of that kind of mindset, and so I find it challenging sometimes to talk to people because when they speak to me, I would always give them my point of view that would kind of lift them up a little bit or encourage them to do something else. But then they always come up with these perfect pre-programmed answers
mhm,
of, but I can't because of this, but I can't because of that. Well, I
uh-huh.
tried and it didn't work out, and all these, it's basically just stay the victim and every step of the way, just do not try, to get out of it because God forbid, what kind of person would you be when you realize you're, powerful human being to begin with, and without those limitations, just let's not go there, right?
Yeah, I've come across that a lot. My family, a lot of my friends feel the same way, and I, with the circumstances in my life, I do my best to mitigate that victim mentality, and I do lean on that a lot in my work and as well as my daily life,
I'm
and
sorry, on which part?
leaning on my victim mentality.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I feel like because of where I am and what the circumstances in my life that I've gone through a lot of work, like if some people call it work, like working on themselves.
Right.
I don't want to toot my own horn that much, but it seems that I can recognize when it happens, and I kind of do my best to mitigate that. It doesn't always work. I always have to, work on that, and it helps sometimes to just kind of get out there, do it live, and see what works. You can't just do nothing as well. That's also, fight, flight, or freeze is a part of the victim mentality. It's a lot of people are just frozen stiff. You got to really, shake it a little bit to kind of
Right, right.
get out of that and thaw yourself from being frozen.
Nathan, just give me one quick second. I would like to acknowledge John T. He's also in the group. And John, if you also would like to chat, let me know. And whenever I've concluded with Nathan, I'll bring you back in. And then, because what I would like to do is just do one person at a time and discuss any ideas and whatever else we have to talk about. Because then, if there's too many people chatting at the same time, it might get too chaotic. But if you would like to chat, John, just kind of raise your hand so that I know that you're interested. Otherwise, you're just listening. So, Nathan, what we were talking about just earlier, if you don't mind me sharing a quick story with you about,
Okay.
talking about reasons, right? So before I moved, where I moved now to Arkansas, I was very much single, and out of all the different coworkers that I had, they were all just having families, worked there for a long time. They were comfortable where they were. And of course, they just were in the mindset of let's not rock the boat, which is fine. It's like I can't expect everyone to all of a sudden be this Braveheart character. But what had happened is where I was working is none of us for about 7 years have gotten any raises, And a year prior to that, what had happened is they have asked everyone to say, well, we could fire 500 people roughly, or everyone takes a furlough, basically a pay cut for a year, and which will allow us to keep those people. So of course, like the good little crabs in the buckets, we're trying to, well, no, that's the wrong word to use. Crabs usually pull each other down whenever somebody wants to do better. Maybe a wrong term I'm using, but basically being these, good human beings, we want to help the fellow coworkers out. All of us took a pay cut so that those 500 people could stay on. After the year, they then brought us all back up to what we were originally getting paid. And then guess what? They still fired everybody, or those 500.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And so you're talking about, morale, and the sentiment was just not great. The energy, talking about spiritual terms, was just really heavy. And so what I was at that time, and I guess because not because I was single, not because I had less to lose than everyone else, because well, the things that I had meant a lot to me at that time, but I was willing to put them on the line, and I was generally saying, I said, look, if all of us would just simply stand up and say, this is unfair, and if we would, let's say, boycott the place, because of the intricacies of everyone's job, it would just be really impossible for them to replace every single person. And this was at least a couple of hundred people, And I was just trying to get them to understand. I said, we're not asking for anything, out of the ordinary. The whole point was, they haven't given us raises for 7 years. The company was going through bankruptcy. The person that put the company through the bankruptcy successfully, she ended up getting about $900,000, and they kept telling us there's no money, And so what I eventually ended up doing, and I said, I was trying to get somebody to join, and they still didn't. So I just, instead of just saying, well, there's no one else there joining me, therefore I should better not do anything, I still, not knowing what the outcome would be, went to my boss's office at that time, and actually higher up. It was more of a director for the whole department. And I just told him, I said, I'm not speaking for anyone else specifically, but I know that what I'm saying, they feel about it the same way, is that you keep telling us you want us to do these different jobs, you expect us to perform, but yet you're not upholding your end of the bargain. You're not giving us, the cut of the money that you're making out of whatever it is that they earn. Now, the point is, I'm not asking for more than was originally agreed upon, but the bottom line was, every person's contract, you know, if everyone should get paid what was agreed upon, no more, no less, you know. And so his mindset was, well, the company just went through bankruptcy. You know, the company went through bankruptcy, and you know, we just don't have have the money, and so there'll be no raises happening. And I said, well, I understand, but what does that have to do with me? You know, he was tugging on my emotions, on my understanding, to say, oh, you went through a bankruptcy, I better understand. I said, would you feel the same way that if you called me into this office and said you're fired, and I said, well, you can't because I just bought a house and I need this job? You know, it's like, if it doesn't work that way, it can't work the other way around. I'm sorry you had to go to bankruptcy, but it has nothing to do with the contract and agreement that I had specifically with you and everyone else in this department. No, long story short, nothing else happened from that. But the point was, to me, as sort of a mindset of, I graduated from this victimhood mentality, you know, I was just able to go and talk to him, or, you know, one-on-one, from another human to another human, instead of looking at it as, oh God, if I lose my job, I can't pay for the car, I can't pay for the house, you know, and then, you know, what am I going to do then? You know, it was basically taking control on my own and just speaking truthfully from my heart without wanting anything extra than what was actually agreed upon. So I'm sorry, I'm going into this long story about what it is that you know, what I went through, but what I was saying is, like, there will be times where it would seem like it's just best to keep your head down and not do anything. And that is exactly the mindset that a lot of us have to try to get out of. Because after that, it opened my eyes even more, and then gave me even more of a boost to just realize, well, hold on a minute. Why am I here? They don't want to pay me. They keep expecting work from me. So I just left, you know? And again, I had no plans, but you know, because I've been going through this for several years at that time, I just trusted that something would come up. And sure enough, I moved to Arkansas, got a new job, and, and basically just things continued perfectly normal for me. But if I never stood up for myself, never did this sort of graduating move from all these years of learning and trying to understand, you know, I would have never really recognized my own power. And so, anyway, so I just want to tell you that regarding taking responsibility and staying out of that victimhood mentality, because it just limits you at the end of the day, no one else.
A very profound answer. Thank you.
So Nathan, I'm just gonna, you know, please
Yeah.
stay on whether you're still watching, and if I just would like to then bring John in and chat with him a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah. No worries.
Right.
I'll be here.
John, you're on
Can you
if
hear
you
me?
can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great.
All right, just speak up a little bit. You seem a bit distant from the mic, but other than that, you're coming through all right.
Oh, okay. How's this?
So
This is for levels.
that's pretty good. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I just happened to see your site. I watched a couple of your videos over the last week. I dabble and see what's in the UFO field, and saw where you were going to test this evening with a simulcast, if you will, and thought I'd come in. And I do have I have a fairly lengthy UFO background and experience, and you'd say about talking about maybe some experiences, and thought I'd just call in and see if you wanted a test guinea, if you will.
You know, of course. I mean, test the platform, but mainly to hear you actually share what it is that you would like to share. I mean, it looks like everything's working, so I'd love to hear from, especially from, you know, someone else that's also been in the field for a long time. I mean, you experience stuff that's always interesting to hear about.
Well, my background is actually pretty deep, and I've worked in media for many years, and did a lot of shows on the paranormal and a lot of subject matters of that realm. And I'm a little older than you are, and I have a perspective of, I've seen a lot of this take place over many, many years. And I've seen the evolution of things, and how this is kind of pointing into it's kind of forming in a direction. Society's picking up on things, like just watching yourself. Many of the things you say, I've been very cluey to for many years, and it's nice and refreshing that people such as yourself, and it's coming actually pretty quickly, about people getting the connection between off-planet beings and our own development. Because this is, in my humble opinion, this is all pointing towards the wake-up call of what we are. Not who we are, but what we are. Because we all have names and personalities, but that's not really what we are. And I think the UFO, the ET, the subject that we see here on this earth, many of them, and it's a very complicated subject. It's not, as you probably found out, it's not just cut and dry. There's a lot of things going on here, and there's a lot of different cross currents. But one of the big cross currents is they're here. I believe, through my work and through interviewing lots of people and being around for a long time, I think what's happening is we have, almost on a subconscious level as a species here on this earth, we have called out to help us through this great, I'll call it a great leap in consciousness. And the consciousness is about waking up again. It goes back to what we are. Ultimately, in the work I've done, it boils down to, there's only one of us here.
Right.
That we are all scattered, separate beings that were created a long time ago. But you know, everything comes back around to linkage, synchronicities, just phenomenal personal experiences, and what that's pointing to is that we are all one. We are all from the same spark, source, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Can you well, before I say anything else, can you expound a little bit more on there's only one of us here? Because I think I know where you're going with that, but if you could tell me from your point of view.
Yeah, let me preface this by saying anything I speak about, or any of my comments, are not meant to be religious, although I respect religion, and they are just, I think, people that you really can listen to and get a lot out of, are just people that are into the truth. And so the oneness is this thing some people might call God, but has a lot of baggage, obviously, with the label, because that means now you've labeled it. But it's this spark of energy of, again, not who you are, but what you are. And what you are, what we all are, is this spark of energy that we find, and we're, spirits in chemical clothing. We find ourselves here in this time, in this illusion, and it's waking up to what you really are, and that's what's going on the planet. That's really what it boils down to. And we're in the middle of it right now. You can look at, and everything that you see in the world outside is a learning experience for you to wake up to that. Even the crazy political stuff, the mainstream media and the misinformation, all that is meant for you to see that and wake up to it. Of course, you're very correct when you talk about going within oneself, because everything you see outside yourself is really coming from within and projected outward. And one thing I wanted to say before I forget, you talk about Bashar. I knew of Bashar back in the early 80s when Daryl was just getting started. And I can give you kind of some perspective. I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but people like Bashar, channelers, in the 1980s were really coming on, in the early to mid 1980s, especially focused in Southern California. And
Right.
Daryl Anka was one of them. And it was even Shirley MacLaine. I don't know. Are you familiar with her work?
Yes, I wasn't aware until very recently, just maybe about a year ago, that she was also very much into this.
So what happened? And I was in the middle of all this, and I interviewed. I've never interviewed Daryl Anka, but I've interviewed others, and I noticed at that time, because part of my job was to go out and look for interesting subject matters to do a story on for television. And this channeling thing started coming up, and I noticed this pattern, and there were channelers popping up left and right. Again, mostly in Southern California, not all, but. And Daryl was one of them. There was probably, I don't know, there's probably, I'd say, a handful. And then if you look at Shirley MacLaine and her experiences, she wrote about them in the book Out on a Limb. And I was really taken aback at how candid she was and how honest she was, because she didn't have a lot to gain from that, Right. Back in the day, she was made fun of, still is. She was made fun of and the butt of jokes and that kind of thing. But she really put it out there. And so I saw this pattern, and there was really everything came forward in the, again, early to mid 1980s. And that brought with it a real well and a swelling of this very controversial form of communication.
So you basically just kind of give me a little background of how it initially began. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think, because I know you like Bashar, and I do too. I mean, there's a lot of things that he says that are very much right in line. But I just wanted to give you that history to say, hey, there was a lot going on when Bashar came out and was made public, and it wasn't he was nowhere near publicly acknowledged or known about. It's just small, very regional.
Right.
And so when you see this pattern, and then Shirley MacLaine came out, and then Shirley did and I think it was ABC, Brandon Tartikoff, which was an executive, I think it was ABC. He got Shirley approved for Shirley MacLaine to do a miniseries on television based on her book Out on a Limb. And being in the business, you know what's coming up, and you read the trades and Variety, and it was announced that she was going to do this miniseries Out on a Limb, and I knew what Out on a Limb was, and I knew how controversial this subject was. Right. And I'm just laughing. I go, that is, for them to do that and put this out there on a mainstream network. Of course, this is of the day when there was no cable television. It was the three main networks, and for this and having insight on the kind of the inside track, I guess, if you will, of all these spiritual things that were coming up, I said that's a major marker in a timeline.
Right. Well, it almost seems like obviously that there was use that cliche, there it was no accident for it to begin when it did, you know. But even yeah, I researched as much as I could about Bashar, because I don't know if you, for what you, how much you heard about me speak about different things about him. I was, you know, I initially started out looking into this information to find out, is this another religion, you know, that because they had these what I perceived at that time as these religious undertones, you know, but I'm like, I don't want to buy into another religion, you know, and for those that are
Right.
religious, you know, I don't mean anything negative by it. It's just personally what I didn't want to do. And so, you know, what was interesting for me is I know some people say, and this is what I don't get, they would say he contradicts himself. And I love to see that, you know, those examples, because I have a lot of his videos, especially from those, what, 10, 15 years ago days for me, where I just watched it all the time, trying to see what else, what does he say about pain, what does he say about this, what does he say about that, you know. And maybe maybe I've indoctrinated myself in this way to where I don't see any contradictions in some way. But what's interesting is that the information he was given, it changed my life, right? And so
Right.
change it to it wasn't just like, oh, I feel better now. It was such a profound change in my life to where, even if he's just some guy with his eyes closed, and I've said that before, um why wouldn't I listen? You know, why wouldn't I listen? Because it improved my life. I learned more, I understood more, you know. It improved everything, friendships, relationships, all these different things. And so it's like, you know, and other than Daryl, especially now charging to watch some of these events that are going on, which before, I guess, I don't know if you had to buy a ticket back then, like in person, when you would go to watch the different channels, you know. But like, you know, when it comes to that, like, I can't expect them to, you know, it sounds great, it helps somebody, you know, but people say, well, this information should be free, you know. Well, I understand, but then, you know, if you're a doctor, you know, and you help somebody, well,
Right.
that's a great thing. Well, why don't you just offer your services for free? You see what I'm saying? You that mindset quickly breaks down when it comes to that person. You ask them, what are they doing, and say, I'm a mechanic. Well, that's great, that helps a lot of people. Why don't you just do it for free? You see what I mean? The point here is,
Right.
it's not that, you know, if you hate what they're saying, let's say, you know, what Bashar is saying, then of course you're going to pick that out as one thing, you know, to kind of nag on or hate on. But the point is, why shouldn't somebody get something, you know, some uh, um, an exchange of some sorts for efforts given? You know, the same way bakers and doctors and
Right.
mechanics, everyone, they go to work, they provide the service, they get, quote unquote, some energy back in the form of money, so they can then, you know, spend it on other things. And so I never understood that mindset, that just like, oh, this should be available to everybody and put it out there for free, and if you don't, you are a greedy person. It's like, what, you know? Anyway, so but what I was going to say is I watched, I found a lot of the early videos, like, I think, was that 83 maybe, or 86 or something, when he, you know, still had, you know, quite a lot more hair than he does now. And it was very interesting to hear the channeling evolution of how much more high pitched he was channeling Bashar than what he does now. I guess if you are in this, you know, believing that it is an alien being communicating through you, then of course, you know, over time you get more practiced in and tuned into their energy. So of course it's just gonna change into the voice and the manner that he channels Bashar now. But what I
Right.
was going to say earlier, you know, there were so many experiences that I don't. It depends on, when I speak to a person in person. It depends on where they go. That's how far I go with certain
Hmm.
experiences. And even then, since you mentioned it, and I know this might go over somebody's, you know, people's heads, but a lot of the experiences eventually, when I was driven to a certain point to where that truly, it was like the most terrifying realization that I could ever come to, which was that there is no one else here. It's just simply me as this individual of the whole is trying to understand itself, reflecting things to itself, and growing and understanding from it. And in order to do that, something has to be created from itself to have an interaction. Otherwise, it would just be stillness, you know. And I don't know if you would agree with what I'm saying, but that was something that instilled such a fear in me that, you know, I don't usually share with people that often, because it's something that I'm trying to figure out on my own and overcome on my own before I can talk about it in more great detail, because I don't want to leave people hopeless. You know, it's like
Well,
that's why I went through what I did before I could speak about certain things. But some things I still have not been, I guess, haven't overcome this great fear, because it is such a fearful experience, you know, because to realize like you're just talking to yourself. That's all existence is.
well, it mm, well, the fear that you experience, and let me also say, I've spent many, many, many years on my own personal development,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the game. That, I mean, that's where it's at, is waking up to what you are. And I think what you're experiencing is you're experiencing ego. And without getting into, that goes on and on and on, the understanding what ego is.
Right.
And ego has purpose, and that is to function here in the world that we see. And really, for lack of a better word at this point, there's a portion of the mind that is your personality, and that is ego. And ego doesn't want you to discover what you really are, because once you do that, then you don't need ego and depend on it like you do now, or you once did. So ego only operates out of fear, and God operates only out of love and puts you in joy. And again, when I say these things, and I know we're and it, and it really involves what the for lack of better label, ETs are doing. Not all, but many of them are here, is to help us wake up to this. So the fear that you're experiencing, and everybody does, is your ego trying to tell you there's nothing, Adnan, there's nothing else here. You're it. Once you pass, that's it. You go into nothingness. And when I said there's only one of us here, I'm speaking in terms, we are part of a greater thing. Again, for sake of this conversation and brevity, we'll just call it God. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what that is, and some are obvious and some are not.
Right.
But by understanding how your ego works, and I will share. Have you ever heard of A Course in Miracles?
Yes. I mean,
So, A
I'm
Course in
waiting for you to finish. What I was going to say. I'm very well aware of what you're talking about, but
Okay.
I was just saying it from the point of view that um, there's I haven't gone into the details to tell you, because I'm still trying to come to a certain conclusion on my own before I feel comfortable to go on and just publicly be very blatant about it, as I have been with a lot of the other experiences up to this point. You know, but yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I
Well,
didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, it is very interesting to analyze that aspect of it. But anyway, I'll just let you finish with that, and beyond what I've already said, I don't want to go into into
gotcha,
more.
gotcha.
But I've been still kind of going at it for. I
Yeah.
wonder how long that's going to take before I can officially speak on it for myself. That is.
Yeah, no, I can respect that. I've been in that position myself, where I have been invited to go on as myself to explain and discuss certain things, experiences I've had, UFOs. I've seen UFOs. We've filmed UFOs. The typical story, and then I know a lot more, but I hesitate to say it because
Right.
it's just going to get out there. However, I'll share one thing I can share with you is I'm at the point now where, and I would still probably be a little bit reserved, not as much, but something that I find really helps me now, both professionally and personally, is the idea of, you know what, the bottom line is I just don't care.
Right.
Meaning I don't care what any, like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. That's their problem. And I'm not going to spend, I've been on shows where I've had to almost debate people about, are UFOs real? And this was some time back. It's not, I haven't engaged as much lately.
Right.
But when someone wants to go into a debate on it, is it real? It gets to a point where, you're just wasting your time. So I would say to everybody listening to this, actually, if I could share one thing with you, get to the position where trust yourself. You are your own authority. And that goes, obviously, we always look at this idea in the UFO field of disclosure and, when's the government going to tell us? And we're all waiting with bated breath. Hey, you're looking at the government saying, not you personally, but people are looking at the government because they look to government as their authority. No,
Right.
The lesson here right now is you are your own authority, no one else. So.
Right. No, I agree. There was it was interesting in the very, very beginning, because when I was starting out with UFO Hub, I was looking for different people to just come kind of see if they will be willing to come out of their shell. And it doesn't matter who it was, maybe people that I know from these different UFO meetings, maybe, eventually, somebody more well-known like Richard Dolan and all of that. And talking about, this is still a process that it takes people some time. I don't want to put a limitation on because, sometimes you can overcome it quickly. Sometimes it takes you years, and I don't want to, put a number in your head that it has to take so long. I'm just saying that it took, a while back. It took me a while to also then get over that and speaking about authority and whatnot. When I started talking to these different people that are wonderful people, and are very well known, but at the end of the day, they were just average Joes like you and I and everyone else listening, that eventually just got into a subject and, totally hardcore about it, and then just started talking about what's on their mind, and other people found it valuable. And that's all it is at the end of the day. And of course they could find an actual physical things like a document or whatever that they can talk about, but it's about them just having an interest and basically speaking their mind out loud, and then more and more people just wanted to have them recorded and speak about it, and next thing you know, they're looked up as an authority. Now of course that's not to disparage them in any way. They're awesome at what it is that they do, but everyone else can get to that point. Everyone else should, really just go about whatever it is. Even if you're a painter, then just be the best painter you can possibly be. The next thing you know, you'll have people come wanting to, take lessons from you because they find it very awesome of how you do certain things,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, John, John, sorry, I was looking at several names and don't want to give you the wrong name. But is there anything else you would like to share? Maybe some other experience or just anything else interesting that you found throughout your research? If you like, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. One thing before I forget is, are you familiar with Farsight Institute? Courtney
Yes,
Brown?
yes. I tried to way back when. Again, I hate to say it all the time, but I have both of his books, and I tried to get him. My boss now, I was recommending to her for Ozark for have him come and speak for this weekend. When this was initially done, and instead he wrote back that he doesn't do much speaking anymore, and he recommended one of his students, and she's going to be a
Good.
speaker there this weekend
Well,
at the Ozark conference.
The reason I bring him up is he actually remote viewed Bashar.
Right.
So have you seen that?
I haven't. If it wasn't in his two books, I think one book was Cosmic Explorers. The other one is like Cosmic something. If it wasn't in that, then was it
he
a
didn't write
video he
about
done?
This was in the last year. On his,
Oh, okay.
he's got a website. It's a member. Some things he'll publish on YouTube for free, and some things you pay. But I've seen the Bashar remote viewing. It's quite interesting.
Please tell me more about it.
Well,
If you
actually,
have more info,
well, I mean, the gist of it is, if you saw it, they remote viewed Bashar, and of course they do double blind. So, or well, that might have been a single blind remote view, but it is pretty positive to show. I mean, it really supports that Darryl Anka, what he's bringing through is definitely a being that is detached from Darryl, and they get into it. It's fairly lengthy, but I would just put it this way: it actually supports that Darryl Anka is the real deal, or that there is some separate energy that moves into him. And of course, when they are remote viewing this, they have no idea what they're remote viewing. They don't know they're remote viewing Darryl Anka. They're just given a target. It doesn't have a name. It's just a number, and then they remote view it. So I would say it actually supports Bashar and Darryl Anka's. I was thinking about.
right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, right. I mean, it's just basically confirms that he says who he says he is.
I will. I'll share this personal experience. This was years ago. I was hired to do a story on a gentleman who was claimed to have experiences and UFOs on his property up in Wyoming. And now this is some time ago, and when I was putting together everything I had on this story to get ready to kind of plan, and I was going up there for actually a number of weeks, because I had convinced the powers that be to let me go up there and see if we could hang out on his property if this was indeed the case. And they'd already been up there and done one shorter story. And I said, well, if you guys really believe that these UFOs are showing up on this gentleman's property, he was a farmer and a rancher. He had like I don't know, something like 600-700 acres, and it was just north of Laramie, Wyoming. And he claimed that these things had been coming around for a number of years, and there had been other witnesses. So I was going up to do the second show, and my pitch to the producers, the series producers, was, well, why don't you let me go up there and I'll hang out with a crew and see if we can get anything on film, and then I'll just do a follow-up story. So we'll have a program. And they, to my surprise, it was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you write us up a proposal and budget and all that? So I said, great. And while I was putting it all together and got approval, I got the green light, like, okay, here's the, you're approved, and we put some dates together. And so I remember sitting in my office and thinking to myself, so I've got all this information. I have a psychological profile of the individual. I have he actually was working with a psychologist up there, and then he was working with Leo Sprinkle, who is, I think he's still around actually, and he's at the University of Wyoming at Laramie, and he worked with he was one of the first guys to work with contactees. And as I was sitting there, and I knew, I was pretty certain that this was a real story. It was a real story. I didn't think the guy was making it up. And then I'd worked on another television show where in Wyoming, another gentleman a few years ago had an experience, and it was in the news. I think it was out of Rawlings, Wyoming, and it was in the papers. It was a fairly large story. Dr. Hynek had gotten involved with it, I believe, and it was pretty involved itself, and it made the news. So, and I looked at a map to see how far that incident was from where I was going, and it was, I think, as far as the crow flies in a straight line, it was something like 60, 70 miles, 80 miles. And I said, well, that's coincidence. So when I was sitting there figuring how am I gonna do this, and we got a motor home, and we were gonna go sit up on the property and hang out, almost 24/7 for multiple weeks. And I sat there and I said to myself, I got the idea, which today is not so difficult to come up with, but back in the day, I think it was pretty novel. And I said, I need to go find a good psychic and see what a good psychic is going to, tell me if she or he can hit on anything. So having used psychics before and on different television shows, and who predicted certain events that we knew that happened. A friend of mine actually recommended somebody. So I called this particular individual, and I gave her my name. I didn't tell her what I was doing, but I just said, well, I'm doing a story, and I'd like to know what you might be able to, can you get from it? I don't even know if I told her it was television related. So I went to her house one night and had my questions, and I even brought some maps of Wyoming and some other things. And she didn't want to know anything. She goes, don't tell me anything. That's fine. And we started, and she started describing. She says, well, and she didn't know I was going to Wyoming or anything. I didn't show her the maps at that point. She said, well, I see a person who, he's not, like her words were, he's not a city slicker. He's like wearing overalls, and he looks like a rancher or something. And and then she started hitting on certain things that I knew she was tagging with what I was doing. And so she said a lot of things that were very confirming, but she never said UFO or these are beings. And I just let her talk until she was pretty much spent, didn't have anything more to say. And that's when I said, well, I'm going up there. A gentleman's been having some strange experiences on his land. And they said, I said, and he claims that he's seeing, odd things on his land and UFOs. And then as soon as I said that, and I had my critical mind at the time, I was on, I was, I was listening, and I have this all recorded. And I said, I said, well, it's about a guy having these strange experiences up there, and there's maybe there's some beings involved. And then as soon as I said that, like everything, all the dots connected for her. And she looked at me and she said, that's it. He's having visitations, and they're actually happening. And she went into all kinds of discussion. Hang on just a sec.
Okay.
I got my dog in here. He brought his bone in.
Oh, I see. That's what the noise was. Please hold that train of thought real quick. I just want to remind everyone else watching that if you can join us on Telegram, and simply go to find the UFO Hub group and join the voice chat. And when John and I have concluded, if you're there and you would like to speak, I'll bring you in. Otherwise, John and I will keep on chatting until one of us gets tired, and I think it's going to be me first. So I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
So she looked at me, and it was like I said, all these dots. I just got this image that all these dots came together for her, and she said, that's it. And she said, he's having these experiences. it's real. He's really having these experiences. And then she said, there were a lot of things that were discussed, but one of the things she said was, there's someone that knows more than he does up there, and you need to find that person.
Mm.
And I said, well, who would that be? She goes, I don't know, but he feels Native American. He feels Indian to me, and you need to find that person. And then she went on talking more and more about the event. And then I remember one thing that scared the heck out of me, actually, at the time. And then she she stopped, and she looked at me kind of in a phased way. And she said, why do you think, and she was kind of half there and half not. And she said, why do you think this has been so easy for you to put this project together? She says it came together pretty easily, didn't it? And I looked at her, and I had never thought about that, actually. And I said, well, yes, it has, actually. And she goes, they're helping you. They want you to come.
Right.
So you can imagine, I was like, yeah, right. I mean, part of my critical mind jumped right in and said, yeah, sure. But and then she went on, explained some things. She said, you got to find the Indian. And that's just the very beginning of it. She said, they will show themselves to you. You will see them. And it's going to be a little different than you expect, but just, be ready, be aware, be awake. So, I can go on and not try to spend too much time on it, but the gist of that was I did eventually find the Indian.
Right.
He told me he was actually someone who's fairly well known in the public, and I didn't meet him while I was in Wyoming. I met him. Kind of synchronistic events had to lead me somewhere else to find the guy, but I eventually did, and he told me many, many, many things because he met with these beings. I saw my cameraman, and I did see these. We never saw like a ship as more. It was like something was enveloped in a plasma. I'll describe it as a plasma field. And it was enveloped in this, and we saw that. And then there's a whole nother, we actually got physical evidence because these craft, we got photos. We didn't take them. The farmer had taken them earlier. And the film that he asked me to develop, actually, because he hadn't developed them, but there were physical holes in the film, in the physical emulsion. This was slide film back in the day before digital.
Right.
And where these objects appeared in the picture, there were literally I took these films to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, where at that time the Voyager spacecrafts had been launched. And I was working for a network at that time, television network, so I had entree there. Very, very nice tour of the facility, and they were willing to look at the photographs, but they weren't going to go on television because they just said, we don't believe in UFOs, but we'll take a look at your photographs if you want us to. And from that analysis, they came up with physical holes were burnt, and the emulsion was blistered from these objects that were taken pictures of in the sky. So there was physical evidence to that. And anyway, the show went on. This is back in 1980, 81. It was pretty dramatic. It really changed my life, certainly. Because
the experience there, or you're talking about talking to a psychic and having those validations?
Both. So,
okay.
I'm a pretty practical guy. I'm very open, but if I see any evidence to lead to the contrary of what I'm being told, then, or it doesn't seem quite right, then I will dig into it further, and I will, especially as a journalist, if you're going to put something out there, you have to back it up. So,
right. Well, John, thank you very much for sharing that. there's someone else also in the room
Sure.
now, Sean, that I wanted to see if he just wanted to say if wanted to share a story. Please make sure to raise your hand so that way I know you're wanting to speak instead of just listening. And looks like Nathan is back. So also, if Nathan, if you have something you would like to share, also just raise your hand in the voice chat. That way I know you guys would like to interact instead of just listening, as I've said. But yeah, John, on your end, it's very interesting. It's one of those things that when you find it sounds so weird to say, when you find a good psychic, you hold on to him and don't let go. Because I know that's become a very good friend of mine, and I interviewed her. Actually, there's both of them. One of them is Kat, I call her, but it's Catherine Hughes, and the other one is Justine Alessi, and she does tarot, where the other one does more of psychic reading. And what's really cool was it was what I like about that is like I don't have to say anything. I just go sit down and they literally lay everything out. And that's when you know they're tapped into what it is that you would like to know. Because very rarely, and actually I have to say I personally just always been lucky to always talk to somebody that has some level of skill, but some it becomes very obvious that they were just born to do this. And one particular one, Justine Alessi, she does a tarot card reading, and my wife and I would talk to her at least not at least once a year. And before my wife and I met, she had told her about me and that we would eventually meet, and that she kind of knows me but not directly, and all these other things, which was confusing her. But and then later when my wife and we did meet, then we both went to talk to her, and she um, basically told us about the son we're going to have and the daughter afterwards, and all these things happening at specific dates and times, which was just amazing, because usually most would, depends on their skill level, would give you a vague idea. Not necessarily, I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just that sometimes probabilities are not always certain. And so but with Justine specifically, I mean, she just gets to the point. And so does my friend Catherine Hughes, because the very first time I had an experience or to talk to a psychic was her. And this was way back when I started all this. And I just sat there and she just laid everything out. And one interesting part was I haven't told her that at that time, I just interviewed two of my friends, and just by whatever happenstance, I managed at that time to get a hold of George Norrie and to have him to interview him, ask him to if he would be willing to talk to me, and he agreed. And that was like this whole, it was this mindset changer that I never went back to this. Oh, I'm so unsure about myself, blah 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 blah. The very
Yeah.
simple fact that he agreed to talk to me just took all doubt out of my mind and just basically made me move forward with confidence. But what's interesting is when I was talking to her, she just kind of looked off like she usually does, and I can't remember if I told her. I want to say that I didn't, but the response that she gave me was interesting. She laughed, and she said, "They're telling me that you're going to interview many more George Norries, you know." And I just kind of stood back, like, "How do you know?" you know. And so, like I said, it sounds silly to say, but when you know you got a good one, you just want to basically, hold on to them and just, you know but sometimes it can get, we try it at least once a year, maybe once every 2 years or whatnot, because you want to live your life, not constantly going, okay, which step should I take next? Because then it
Yeah.
takes the fun out of it. The whole point is for you to decide and do. But it's fun, at least on occasion, to just kind of go in and say, hey, what can you tell me? What's coming up? And
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
would,
again, so Nathan and Sean, if you would like to share an experience or simply come on to talk to me, just raise your hand, and then I know what your intentions are. Well, John, thank you. I'm going to go back to Nathan just to see what he has to say. But please sit tight. If we're still on, I'll see if you want to come back on. But I'm very grateful that you came on to talk to me and to be part of this very first open line. I'm hoping that I can just keep doing this maybe once a week, and so to just give the opportunity to more people to just chat.
Yeah, sure. Good luck to you. I'll stay on for a little while. I want to say good luck to you, and
Thank you.
continue it, man. It'll get stronger.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna go over to Nathan. All right, John, I'm gonna mute you. Thanks. Okay, Nathan, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
I wanted
disappeared
to.
there for a second. I thought maybe
Yeah, that was my bad. My client on my computer crashed.
it's no problem at all. I was just wondering because I know I told you I was gonna come back to you, and it's like, oh shoot, I never did.
Well, I
Did-
caught the last part there actually because I just got back on, and he was
Okay.
talking about psychics, and I really wanted to chime in there about one that, like you said, you really want to hold on to the one that really like. If you find one, you really want to hold on to that one. Then I did for a while actually
Right.
find one that was actually in my own town, which is very lucky. Um, so a story I'll go into just to clarify. It goes into something that you actually said. Um, so the person that's in my own town is actually the one that my mom goes to, and so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the stuff that I've learned from is from my mom's work, and my mom has gone through pretty much just everything you can think of that's been like over 30 plus years of just research and such, and so naturally, just by her interests, my interests were kind of simultaneously hers. So she's like, hey, you want to go to this thing? I'm like, first off, I'm like, no, I don't know what this is. She's fucking weird, but like, sorry, but I don't want to curse on the show, but the it was really weird at first. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a chance. She was going to these like spiritualist churches, like non-denominational. It's like a lot of it just was, under the guise of, just kind of community. And as I was starting to get into it, she's like, oh, so that's what that is. She was doing a lot of things with Reiki and spiritual healings and stuff like that. And then she got into um, kind of channeling and interdimensional stuff, but it wasn't really specific. So a lot of it was just for healing and for Reiki reasons. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was Dolores Cannon. And my
Mm-hmm.
mom got really deep into her work. And it really moved me to think like all this other stuff that kind of really like answered my questions of like why, like at a young age, um, really answered it for me was like, why are we here? Like, why do I feel this way? Like, why do I feel different from everyone else? And a lot of that was just from me being curious and my mom helping me out with that. Um, answering some of those questions, just not really like answering it for her or for me, but like pointing me in the right direction. And so she got into Dolores Cannon. I got into the stuff that she was doing. I was going with her to see the same psychic that she was going to, and it really opened up that world for me in a lot of that. And so, with all these restrictions now, it's not really with the state of the world, it's not really happening anymore. Like I used to go there pretty much every week, and it slowed down, it tapered off, and then kind of just was non-existent. Um, but I feel like the time will come. I think she's still around. She's in her later years, but uh,
Who is?
it is the psychic that
Oh, I see.
my
Okay.
mom went,
Yeah.
and so the psychic had really like profound insights, at least for me, because it was just so new and so amazing that it really put me on a springboard to my later lives and where I am now. So I
Well, I
do
think it
agree
puts
to your
things
sentiment.
right. I think it puts things in perspective that if you had a little bit of doubt, then here's a person that by all means should not know anything about you, and everything coming out of their mouths should be as kind of this fraudulent fishing for information, right? But when you have those that really just speak the truth, so to say, it just resonates with you, and just sitting there dumbfounded. I'm like, I didn't tell them anything, and they're just reading me like a book.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if well, because the Dolores Cannon, I personally well, disclosure, I'm married into the family, you know, and because my wife
Hmm.
is her is Dolores is her, or my wife is Dolores's granddaughter. And I only
Wow.
got to interview Dolores the very first time in 2014, which was right around that time that I met my wife, because that's how the connection came about, with the psychic telling her that she knows of me, but we haven't officially met, you know. And that was actually also the time when my wife and I first met. But anyway, what I was going to say is, I wish I had more chances to talk to her, because what I found very interesting about her work is that it's not just hypnosis in the traditional sense, but she talks them through to get to a point to where they're so deep into the trance, to where so much information and the things, like weird things, start happening, in the sense of information and that's coming through, you know, through you. And what's interesting is that she would, let's say, put a person in trance. She'll go to that level where she needs to go with them, to where they can to seek help for them. But then after that's done, this I guess what she called the source would come through and give her sets of information, which she eventually based her books on. But what's interesting is now she'll go to China, talk to a person that lives in China, lived in there all their life, you know, in that town, and you know, then, you know, through whatever means, learned English well enough for her to be able to then talk them through to this hypnosis, and that same source would come through and continue the information that where they left off in America, through an entirely different person that there's no way they could know each other. So it
Wow.
was very interesting information that the books were written in that way, you know, to where you know that it's coming through in this esoteric and interesting and very, let's to say the least, interesting way, you know. And it was information that's
Mhm.
very useful, helpful, you know, to, because some people always, if you depends on which religion you are, you would think, well, that's a demon, that's Satan's work, that's so and so. But you know, why would the information in the way it's told, you know, it betters people's lives? So if it's supposed to be so negative, what's the point? I mean, did Satan just go through a, you know, some kind of program to where I'm going to do good from now on? You know what I mean? I don't mean to make any, you know, when I say it in this way, I don't mean to make
Right.
fun of it. I'm just saying it makes no sense logically to me that it would be a negative entity when based on the books that you read and information given, it's just there to give information and help. Also, Sean, I just letting you know, you probably heard this. If you're also interested to talk, just raise your hand, let me know. Otherwise, you know, welcome, and just listen in. And anyone else watching this, looks like we'll be on there just, you know, a little bit longer here. So if you want to join us on Telegram, or maybe next time, please make sure you download Telegram, find UFO Hub, and if I manage to have these open lines once a week, then you know to chime in and share your story with us. So, Nathan, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
No, I think that was a good point that you made, and I really appreciate that. I just found that your connection with Dolores Cannon to be pretty cool. I had no idea that you were connected in such a way. Synchronicity has to find a way, you know.
Right, right. Well, it worked out great too, because for the company that she started, which is Ozark Mountain Publishing, back in 1992, for the location where it's at, it's very difficult to find people that can help out into this, to jump over to this new digital age. And what's interesting is that it just so happened that not only was it synchronicity in my own personal life, you know, talking about, as I talked to you about my previous job where I just quit it, and next thing I know, I found another. It just so worked out that I found a job working for the company that uh, my my wife's grandmother started. And of course, they met my wife, and in return, they're getting the skills that I had initially, you know, started out as you know, when I was younger, about technology, so that I can help them out with websites and videos and editing and recording and pictures and IT and network and all of that stuff. So talking about things working out, that's like the ultimate, everything falling into place for all parties involved.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, so Nathan, well, thank you very much again. And John
Yeah.
is still on. Looks like Sean has
Welcome.
left, which is fine. And I was going to conclude right now. So it's been about 2 hours, and I know all of us haven't talked for that long, but I thank you all very much for coming on for the first recording. This live stream will stay on and continue to stay on live on YouTube, if anyone out there wants to rewatch it. But anyone else that is still watching, this is supposed to be basically just a trial to see how open lines would work, and it seems to be working pretty good. So that any of you out there have an experience to share, I would like to hear from you, because I mean it's great. I'll always continue having the more known people to talk about stuff, but you matter just as much, and in whatever little way you think you matter, and so maybe just by being a little bit more courageous, just come out and talk, because with everyone else having the same mindset to come out and want to publicly discuss their stories, it wouldn't be an obscure topic anymore. It would become the new mainstream. And so yeah, everyone else watching, thank you all.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm gonna there's Andy. They just hopped on. Andy, if you wanted to ask a question, please let me know, and I'll stay on longer and hear what you have to say. But if you're just here to listen, I'm sorry to say we're concluding. But I would love to hear any stories that, if you have any. So just raise your hand if you do. Otherwise, if you stay as a listener, then I just know you just came by to listen. But unfortunately, we're concluding. Nathan, I'm going to mute you. Thank you again. And I appreciate you listening and watching.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. So let me see. Just want to go back a little bit to the chat. Yeah, any of you watching that are in chat, I'm sorry I haven't focused so much on the chat itself. This was mainly a focus for open lines, and I'm grateful to some of you that have logged in, John and Nathan. I appreciate that, and to speak to me instead of me just reading more of the chat list. But yeah, please download Telegram, and it's very easy, or at least a lot easier for me. And it's a great messenger software. I use it all the time. I've replaced Facebook Messenger, and which was something I was using heavily. But on my personal account, I canceled my account a while back. I maintained the ufohub account, but and I got out of Messenger and using this instead. It's a great platform. It has a lot less limitations on how many videos you can post, connecting with friends. And when I did, a lot of other friends were reaching out, basically welcoming me, and I had no idea they were on it, because you can either sign up through your phone number, or you can sign up, I believe, through an email. But yeah, if you have Telegram, you can just after you open an account, in the search for the UFO Hub group, and you'll find the channel. And I'll do another poll, and I'm hoping that a lot of you will partake to give me good feedback to see where everybody's mindset stands. I was going to see if this is something you guys would like me to do maybe once a week, which I don't mind doing if I know that there's enough interest for people to want to come on and to just share their experiences. Because like I said, a lot of times you just hear me talk to a person that has published a book or has some sort of experience and whatnot that's well known, but you matter as well, of course. And it's at least something to start doing more publicly, because I used to attend a lot of meetings in St. Louis to where it was, people liked it, that it was behind closed doors, and they always felt comfortable to share their stories because they know they wouldn't be judged. But it was always interesting, and eventually the meeting would turn into how government is always doing something behind closed doors. And I brought that up in a meeting one time, and I said, well, you can't always blame the government for always doing everything, behind closed doors, and you complaining about why you don't know more, but yet here we are doing the same thing. It's not anything that you should be afraid of. Any experiences, whether it's ghost encounters, cryptids, like Bigfoot encounters, UFOs, aliens, abductions, all these different things are, part of this collective psyche that's had no, in a way, I see that had no choice but to spill out into forms like mine and many others that are out there on YouTube, to where finally people are going to have to talk about it, and they cannot be constantly be oppressed. People need someone out there to talk to or share their experiences, to know that they're not the only ones that had these weird things that a lot of the family members don't accept. But when you do come out, as I've said many times, it's amazing how many more will then look at you as the go-to person, where they would feel comfortable to say, well, I had these same experiences, but I didn't want to speak up. But now you said something first, and then, I'm able to come and talk to you. And the next thing you know, there's 4 or 5 people within your immediate family that basically felt the same way, but didn't quite have the same courage as you did to just be more public about it. I don't mean necessarily pushing it on other people, but just not make it a secret. When you're being asked, what are you doing? I'm going to a UFO meeting. Where you go next weekend? I'm going to a conference where they discuss UFOs, and things like that, to just be nonchalant about it, because you should be able to say that in the same sense that people, when they talk about, oh, what are you doing next week? I'm going to a baseball game, or, oh, we're having a barbecue, to discuss topics like this should be just as simple as that. And so the more of you just find the courage to speak, at least from the videos you've seen that I've done, and the way I like to talk to people, that there is no judgment. It's just talking to each other, exchanging ideas and seeing who knows different information and what else is out there that, another may not have experienced. So feel free to just download Telegram, come and speak to me, just subscribe to UFO Hub and watch some other interviews that I'll, keep on doing with, like I said, a bit more well-known people. But just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just come out the closet, so to say, out of the UFO metaphysical closet. So anyway, thank you all very much again, John and Nathan and Andy and Sean earlier that were listening. Thank you for helping me figure out that this experiment is working out great, and that it's something that we can continue. Maybe in the future, because if there's more people, there might be less time to give to each person. But if you keep coming back week after week, eventually, I will get to you. So yeah, well, thank you all very much again. I'm just going to be stopping the stream here real soon, and closing out the Telegram voice chat. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, and tune in for Friday, 7 p.m. I'm going to be talking to Mike Dooley, and I hope you can log in there and get to ask some questions as well. All right, take care and have a good night.